All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another stream. So, today I'm going to be going over the Yankee Blue Jay series. That game two is set to get underway in about 3 hours. Talk about the Yankee in division struggles and trade deadline overview. So, let's get into it. So, first off, the Yankees dropped game one against Toronto last night in kind of very embarrassing fashion once again, which has become like the classic for this Yankee team, is they can never, ever, ever lose in like a normal way. They always have to find a way to lose in like some pathetic fashion. Last night, it happened to be with the defensive collapse. Obviously, Carlos Rodon, didn't have his A+++ stuff yesterday, and that was very apparent from the second inning on when he loaded the bases, but was able to get out of it. Now, the double by Bichette, that's on him. Walking the bottom of the lineup to be in that position, in that spot, that's on him. Obviously, it was the top of the lineup. He allowed base runners on. But he was consistently walking the bottom of the lineup, and then the following inning would have to deal with the top. Well, if he wasn't walking the bottom of the lineup as consistency as he was, he's probably not in that spot. That you don't take away from him. But he threw 40 pitches in the fifth inning, and the left side of the infield couldn't get him an out to save his life. I mean, Volpe and Peraza. Peraza, to me, feels like he should get a little bit of an excuse because that was his first throwing error all season. And it's July 22nd, so that's good. But then again, he's only on this team because his defense is good and because Brian Cashman failed at his job this offseason in getting a third baseman. That's the only reason that we are sitting here watching Oswald Peraza every day, or most days, because today it will be Vivas in there according to Boone. So that's a problem. And then Anthony Volpe, once again, and I'm going to bring up an article that I wrote last night that has some Savant data in it that I added and was actually trying with last night. Anthony Volpe has been a whipping boy for the Yankee fan this year, and kind of rightfully so. He has not had a good year at the plate, and his big calling card has always been his defense. This year, his defense has taken a considerable step back. He is not a good defender this season, so I'm going to scroll down on this page in just a second. I just want to get a background. He's not a good defender, like at all, and I don't want to sit here and watch his defense every day. His defense is horrific. So Savant has him. This is the Savant reading. Let's see if I can open image in a new tab. So Savant's opening up the image that I took last night from their site about Anthony Volpe's defense. So here we go. His base running is poor. Okay, it's like slightly above average. He's not stealing. And I had a conversation with someone last night about this. He's not stealing bases. The reason he's not stealing bases anymore is because Major League Baseball, not the baseball itself, but the other teams in Major League Baseball have caught up on his little hop step thing that was getting him success his first 2 years in the bigs. They've caught up to that. So now he's not stealing bases anymore. That takes away a big facet of his game. And I don't think he's made a single attempt at a stolen base, or maybe he's executed one in about the past month since that game up at Fenway Park, where he got thrown out stealing third, which I think he was out on. That went to replay on that game that they kind of got boned by the umpires. But then again, he's not stealing bases at a consistent rate. So why? So that takes away a facet of his game. His batting data is horrific. You just look at it. He's barreling up the ball at an above average rate. That's a positive. Hard hit rate's below average. Sweet spot rate below average. I thought that the torpedo vat was supposed to help him. Remember that whole when they were in Cleveland, Meredith Marakovitz nicknamed him Volpedo? Where's that now? Because he's not getting on the sweet spot. He's in the 85th percentile of chase rate, which means he's chasing the ball. He's not putting it in play. And when he does put it in play, we saw last night, it's either a weak pop up to second or short, or it's a weak ground ball to the left side. He's not good. Whiff rate, that's about average. K rate, about average, but he's chasing a lot more. He's walking an average rate, which is good because walking last year, so he's improved with the walk rate. Fielding range at shortstop, he has -3 outs above average. -3. I know he has like +2 defensive runs saved according to Fangraphs. Okay, great. Let's look at this. -3 outs above average. That's not good. He leads the league in errors. And Aaron Boone last night had the gall to sit there on the Yes Network post game. I know that's not the end all be all, and hopefully, that's a different message from what's going on behind the scenes. Excuse me. He's sitting there looking at Meredith Marakovitz in the eye, who last week told her that Volpe's fucking elite, which is an awful, awful thing to say. Looked her in the eye and said that. And now he has the gall to look at her yesterday and say that he's 1 or 2 plays away from being an elite shortstop, 1 or 2 plays that he should have made, and he's elite. No, he's not, Aaron. It's not 1 or 2 plays away. He should have made that play, and that play costed his pitcher pitches. And the Peraza play costed his pitcher pitches, but Peraza's only made 1 play this year like that. It was last night in a big spot. And we see this consistently with Anthony Volpe, where the big moment is too big for him. Game 5 of the World Series, everyone talks about the Judge drop fly ball, which is horrible. But what about the Volpe booting the ball at third? Volpe and Jazz on that play. That was a bad play. And since then, there have been multiple instances this year. I go back to the game I was at, and I have the clip somewhere. The game I was at where, albeit he hurt his arm and should have came out the shoulder and should have came out of the game right before that, against Tampa Bay, where he boots the double play ball, lighters out of the inning. Instead, it's the go-ahead run scoring, the tying go-ahead runs score, and the Yankees lose the game. So that's another one that he cost the Yankees. And there was a game in Baltimore, Game 3. That was April 30th, because I'm going to talk about that in a second. You see the ticker at the bottom. The Yankees have lost 9 road games. I'll get to that in the division struggle. 9 road games in a row against the American League East. He's a negative base runner as well this year. So Anthony Volpe's had a tough year, and Aaron Boone defends him like it's his job. Here's the play from last night. Now, Goldschmidt maybe should have scooped that, but we should also add Goldschmidt saved his ass from about 20 different errors this year. This is not on Goldschmidt. This is on Volpe. That's like the main discussion here this is a Volpe problem. Because Volpe has not been good this year at his job, which is fielding. Boone said, a few too many. That's, errors get handed out in a lot of different places, a lot of different ways, so I'm not worried about it. That was my favorite quote. That was my favorite quote from Boone. Error, because he's referenced this. If anyone watches John Boy, Talking Yanks, the weekly or bi-weekly, whatever, the interviews with Boone, and I'll get into today's a little bit, because I did listen this morning or this afternoon, early afternoon. He keeps referencing all the time where they'll go to away ballparks and then come back to Yankee Stadium, and the way errors are handed out a little bit differently. Okay, and what do you call that last night? You call that a base hit? That play has to be made, and Boone kept hammering on the point. Well, yeah, I said the play has to be made. The play has to be made. Yeah, it has to be made. And guess what? Since there's zero accountability because that's Boone ball, there's zero accountability in your clubhouse, in your locker room, since everything's sunshines rainbows. When we all know he stinks, you might not say it to us. You might be saying it to him. He needs to know he stinks and that this can't happen. His whole calling card right now, because he's been the sample size of 1,500 or more plate appearances right now, is he's a horrible, horrible hitter. He should be batting ninth. And you know what? Him not being a good hitter kind of dampers their deadline plans, and I'll get to that in a second. This isn't good. Volpe's quote, I just rushed that throw there, pulled it a little, and gave Goldie a tough place to pick it and handle, Volpe said, reflecting on his throw. Anytime the ball hits you, you expect it to be an out. So when it doesn't happen, it's frustrating. Okay. At least he wasn't arrogant like he was last week. Because last week when he's like, yeah, I did everything right. When he had the errors on back-to-back plays up at Toronto, at least, he's grading out horribly. This is what I was kind of referencing before with the shoulder. And I want to bring this up because watching Volpe's postgame last night, or I was listening to it while I'm trying to gather the Boone quote writing this. I have Volpe in my ear. I turned when this question was asked, I believe by Gary Phillips of Newsday, but that's not confirmed. I think it was his voice I heard. Ask Anthony Volpe if he's 100% healthy. And Volpe paused, like a long pause, and then said yes, and moved on. And I'm like, that was a very abnormally long pause for a simple question, are you 100% healthy? Of course, Boone brushed it off. Yeah, he's healthy. Volpe paused for like a considerable amount of time and then said, yes, I'm healthy. This is the play I'm referencing. I was at this game. It was kind of a scary moment where Volpe goes down on the ball hit by Morel. And he's grabbing his shoulder. Since then, he's iced his shoulder pretty much every day. And you saw in a post game last week where he had like the watermarks on his sleeveless shirt. He had like the watermark there from the ice. It was about 40 minutes after the game by the time Yes got to him. And you could tell maybe this is affecting him. Since then, that's when the defense has really gone to hell. Maybe this is affecting him in a negative way. Like maybe that needs to be brought up by Boone or whomever. Sorry. So that's something. That's a problem. So Volpe's becoming a liability, and I kind of said it last night. I think right now the Yankees have so much to add at the trade deadline that a shortstop cannot be on that list. But should they consider looking in the shortstop market? I don't know at this point. I really just don't know. But it's gonna take so much to go out and get a shortstop. But Volpe's just not cutting it right now for the Yankees. Volpe isn't cutting it. It's simple. If he was an offensive masher and these were kind of things that are happening along the way, you can live with it a little bit more. If it was flip-flopped like it was previously in his career and he's any ball hit him 95% of the time, he's getting off and making the play, and he's not a good offensive player, you can live with that one too. This is bad. Which brings me to my next point. The Yankees can't seem to win against teams in the American League East. They are on a 9-game losing streak against road teams in the American League East, dating back to April 30th. The last road game they won against a division rival was that one where they hit about 1,000 home runs. The first three batters of the game all hit home runs off Kyle Gibson, who just retired last week. So congrats to him. Where they hit 1,000 home runs off Kyle Gibson, and Rodon had a perfect game into the sixth inning. That was the last time they won a road game against an American League division rival. They lost the final game of that series. Volpe booted the ball, and that's what led to that loss. And that was, I think, a Will Warren start or a Cookie Carrasco, one of the two. Players who shouldn't be on this team. They lost 3 in a row to Boston up at Fenway. They lost 5 now in a row against the Blue Jays up at Rogers Center. That's pathetic. The Blue Jays are a gutty, gritty team that are the anti-Yankees and do, things that the Yankees can't handle. They put the ball in play and they don't strike out. Well, what do the Yankees do best at on the pitching side? They strike you out and prevent you from putting the ball in play. So when you get these two teams meeting, especially in their building, where obviously the Yankees are uncomfortable, you're mixing oil and water. It's a bad combination. And they're overconfident, and the Yankees are not. And it shows in their play. The Blue Jays are overconfident because they know they can beat the Yankees right now every which way. And the Yankees are underconfident because they know they're staring at the barrel of leaving Toronto this week, 6 games back in this division, because let's be real, who is really confident? Maybe tomorrow because Fried's starting, but even that, I have my reservations with his injury. Schlittler tonight might provide, something, a different look than what Toronto hasn't seen in a very long time. They've never seen Schlittler. So maybe he throws them off balance a little bit. Maybe the high velocity throws them off. That's a big start for Kim making a second start in a must-win game against the American League East. So that's tough for Schlittler. And then Fried tomorrow. But they can't see. They're 10-17 against the AL East. 10-17. That's not good. They're 3-3 against Baltimore. They're 1-5 against Boston. They are 2-6 against Toronto. And they are 4-3 against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay comes to town next week for a 4-game series. That should be something. It seems that the Yankees are lining up Fried and Rodon to potentially start that series. From my memory, if my memory recalls and serves me correctly, Tampa Bay is a little bit susceptible to left-handed pitching. Will Warren has not had good success against the Tampa Bay. He hasn't really had good success against the American League East, which is a problem, which might plague them down the stretch, especially playing Baltimore 7 times in a week. That was his best American League East game, was the one against Baltimore at Yankee Stadium. So maybe there's something there. But other than that, he hasn't had great luck against the American League East. He lost the game to Baltimore at Camden Yards. He did okay against Boston at the home start. The one game they did win. He did horrible against Toronto, the start he made this year. So it's a small sample size of like 3 or 4 starts, 5 starts, because he had the implosion start on Sunday against Tampa Bay. That Sunday rain game that it was like delayed forever before the San Diego series. And then he had the one in Tampa where he was like pulled in the 3rd inning and they won the game because Yarborough came in and saved their bums. But they won the game. He has struggled against the American League East, and that's something to watch down the stretch. So hopefully Cam Schlittler can, give the Yankees something. And hopefully, Max Scherzer tonight, gets shelled. The Yankees need to try and have their way with Scherzer. And in the past they've had, last time they were in Toronto, they did. They need to have their way with him. Excuse me. If they can have their way with Scherzer tonight in Toronto, then, they can win this game. And when I mean have their way, 3 runs in the 1st inning and keep the pressure on. Get into the middle of that Toronto bullpen. That's probably not the best. Because the Yankee bullpen's not good. So even if Cam Schlittler gives you 6 innings of, 1 run and the Yankees are up 3-1, well, Tim Hill is going to be the first one out. What's he get? Balls in play. What's that team? A ball club that puts the ball in play. What's that a recipe for? Errors. Yankee errors. Because they can't handle the ball in play. So that's a recipe for Yankee errors. Not what you want. Luke Weaver, what are you going to do? Throw him for 30 pitches in 2 innings? Well, he got knocked around last time we were in Toronto. I think he gave up for 7 runs. Some of them were unearned, and some of them were inherited. 7 runs, 2 bombs, both off the bat of George Springer. 8 runs, because there was the dribbler up the middle that was caused by the catcher's interference. So not entirely his fault, but still, he had 2 bombs to George Springer, and he's looked a lot better as of late. But do you really want to throw him into that for 2 innings? Because I don't. Jonathan Loizaga gives up home runs as often as he doesn't at this point. He pretty much gives up a bomb at least every outing. If not, like, he gave up 2 one time, and Boone always puts him in for 2 innings, which is always a recipe for disaster. He's not a 2-inning pitcher. So I know they're short back there. If Cam Schlittler schlits the bed today, Alan Winans is going to be your option out of the bullpen, and they're going to punt this game and save all the chips for tomorrow, a Max Fried start. Devin Williams has also struggled a little bit against the Blue Jays this year. Why? Because he's a high strikeout pitcher, and they put the ball in play and don't strike out. So, yeah, it was on like little grounders or errors up the middle, or not throwing out the base runners, or little dinkers and dunkers here. It wasn't hard contact last time they were in Toronto. At the stadium it was, and walks and hit batsmen. But you know what? This team doesn't have everything going for them against this Toronto team. We're going to see what they're made of over the next 48 hours. Because if they're made of what I think they're made of, they could win the series. If they could come in there today, say we're the New York bleeping Yankees, and you guys are the Toronto Blue Jays, we can beat them. You just have to play a clean game of baseball, and they don't do that. The Yankees don't. So next thing is trade deadline overview. I don't know what to think of this deadline. The Yankees are apparently all in and going to town, or whatever the hell that means. Here's what I have to say about this. Trade deadline is 6 p.m. next Thursday. The Yankees play a day game next Thursday against the Tampa Bay Rays at Yankee Stadium. The Yankees supposedly going all in. Okay. I get it. That's good. But what do we expect from Ryan Cashman and his team? I mean, really. If they have a good week this week, let's say they come back and win the next 2 against the Blue Jays, they take the series, right? They come home, do what they're going to do against Philadelphia. Let's say they take 2 or 3. It's going to be tough. They're facing Ty Bradley Friday, Ranger Suarez Saturday, Zach Wheeler Sunday. Those are 3 really tough starting pitchers to face. And you have Marcus Stroman going. You have Will Warren going, and he made his major league debut against the Phillies about a year ago. So you have him going, and then you have someone else going. Excuse me. Then you have Tampa coming to town for. Luis Gil's supposed to make a rehab appearance tomorrow. It remains to be seen if his outing after that will be at Yankee Stadium. It would be like next Monday against the Rays. If so, I think it's Monday Heel, Tuesday Fried, Wednesday Schlittler, and if he stays in the rotation, and Thursday or maybe Stroman. If Stroman's going Friday, then it'll be Stroman Wednesday and then Rodon Thursday. And then Warren would probably start Friday in Miami, which would actually be a good matchup for him. So if I'm the Yankees, that's the plan, because then you can roll Heel and Fried then against Miami, if that's the plan, and we'll see. But the trade deadline is going to be important for this Yankee team. And if, let's say, they lose the next 2 against Toronto, lose the series against Philadelphia, and split against the Rays, that's a really tough week. Now, the Yankees do get a little break because Toronto is going to play the Detroit Tigers, and School's throwing in one of the games. So they get a break there. If they could play against Philadelphia, let's say they win today, the Yankees, or tomorrow, and Fried has to play stopper, because that's probably what we're looking at, Fried having to play stopper tomorrow. And you go home to play Philly. Let's say they take 2-3 against Philadelphia and split against Tampa. Now, the Yankees should beat Tampa 3 out of 4. Boston just swept them and forced. The Yankees should take 3 of 4 or sweep them. I think if the Yankees sweep them, that's impressive. That might knock them out of contention. I think if the Yankees split against them, I think we'd all be happy. Their closer has been dreadful this past month, so that's something to highlight. Fairbanks has not been good, and Brandon Lau hit the IL again today. He always gives the Yankees a tough time, and he's on the IL again. So that's one less player that the Yankees are really going to have to deal with next week. And Jankowski was on their team for a while this year, and he gave the Yankees fits when he was at home. So when he was playing. So yes, the Rays are a gritty team, but the Yankees can beat them. They've had a lot of success at Yankee Stadium. It's a 4-game series. And it's a weekday series. The Yankees can beat the Rays. I'm a little less worried about that series. And if the Yankees don't beat the Rays, then this trade deadline should look a lot differently, and it should look like trading Goldschmidt, trading Grisham, and not trading prospects. That's what it should look like. Now, everyone wants Eugenio Suarez. I have mixed feelings. The offense is great, but he strikes out a lot. Not since the All-Star break, so maybe he made an adjustment. The offense is great. The defense is not. The Yankees' offense, for the most part, has been good. Last night was awful, so maybe tonight's a little bit better. And it's been their defense that has been a problem. So do you really want to add another minus defense in there for that much more offense? But you can get away with it because he's the anti-Volpe. He would hit and really produce in the lineup, hopefully, and his defense might get erased a little bit. Minnesota is probably selling off veterans. Willie Castro, I think, is the perfect option for the Yankees. He's on an expiring contract. It's not going to take a whole lot to get him. The Yankees wanted him this offseason. He's one to watch. Very good defender. Solid hitter. That's one to watch. If you can somehow make a package for him and Yohan Duran, who's one of the better closers in baseball, I think the Yankees have to do that. And then go get a starter and another reliever, if that's the road you want to go down. Now, I could see the Yankees making 2 trades. If Willie Castro's the route, I could see them doing 2 trades. One is for Yohan Duran and Willie Castro. Don't know what that package would look like, but it would look, it would be something because Duran's very good. Then I could see them making a package for Seth Lugo and Carlos Estevez, who's not a good closer, but I can see him being well in a setup role. That's my thought plan with him. I can also see the Yankees trading for Mackenzie Gore. I mean, not Mackenzie Gore. Oh my gosh, he's not being traded. For Kyle Finnegan, and maybe they find another starter that they like in Washington. That could be an innings eater 4 or 5. I could see the Yankees trading for Eric Fetty and Ryan Helsley. Or Miles Michaelis and Ryan Helsley. I could see those trades happening. Their focus should be on pitching. There were a couple packages floated out there for Jalen Beeks, Eugenio Suarez, and Merrill Kelly. I think that's a big package. I think that's a lot to go back to Arizona. I don't think that'd be in the Yankees' best interest to send back to Arizona. That's my opinion. I don't think I would make that trade if I'm the Yankees. So there's that. There was another package. I didn't see the return to Pittsburgh. If these are the two, I'm probably gonna go with the Pittsburgh one. Brian Hayes to play third. Not the flashiest name. The Yankees are high on him for whatever reason. Not the flashiest name, but he's an option. Then it would be David Bednar is in the package, and I like him a lot. And I guess discussions are really picking up steam for Mitch Keller. Solid starter, be here for 3 more years. Has not a Tommy John, throws hard. That could be something, again, with Matt Blake. Maybe Matt Blake finds something, unlocks him a little bit, and he could be a weapon. A lot coming in the next week, but the Yankees need to take care of business starting tonight in Toronto. So we'll see. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another episode of 161st and River, and have a great day.